Doug Polk and Brad Owen are two of the owners of the Lodge Poker Room, and today they are going to go to war. Brad Owen is the video blogging in-boss here on YouTube. His opponent, Doug Polk, is a three-time World Series of Poker bracelet winner. He has lots and lots of experience playing heads up, and every once in a while he even shows up on YouTube still.
Owner-on-owner crime here. Partial owners of the club, Doug Polk, Brad Owen.
He's got a bad feeling in his stomach.
You know what hand I have. It's your hand.
The jiggities.
Kind of hurts when it's against the buddy, right?
Wow.
But there's no buddies.
There's no
at
buddies.
the poker table.
Let's see who the king of the lodge is going to be today.
So stay tuned to the stream for that information. Pocket Jack, jiggities for Doug, and Brad with the sixes. So sandwich bet right now. I'm going to take the jacks. It's going to be extra pain for you.
All right, I'll take the sixes, I guess.
Wow, Brad getting after it here. 3 bets to 700.
Doug Polk raises it up with pocket jacks from under the gun +2. Perfectly fine and standard to $250. Over to Brad Owen, who opts to 3-bet with pocket sixes. The jiggity killer. In this scenario, I definitely think Brad should have called because you really don't want to 3-bet the sixes and then get 4-bet. And also the hand plays really well multi-way, but whatever. He came to battle at the lodge. They get after it. Fine. Let's see how Doug proceeds.
Anybody want anything from the fridge? Soda? It's on me.
Owner-on-owner crime here. Partial owners of the club, Doug Polk, Brad Owen.
That's okay, guys.
A lot of players in Doug's seat opt to 4-bet because they probably have the best hand and they don't want to get outdrawn. But as you're playing deeper and deeper stacked, you cannot get all your money in with hands like pocket jacks or pocket tens before the flop, because if you do end up getting a lot of money in the pot, you're usually going to be in very, very bad shape. Please do not make this blunder. To ensure you do not make this blunder, I actually have Game Theory Optimal pre-flop charts on pokercoaching.com and in the Poker Coaching app, so you can reference these charts and see how you should actually be playing these scenarios. You can actually get the charts and all the rest of pokercoaching.com at a big discount right now at pokercoaching.com/Black Friday. Doug has referenced the charts. He calls. Let's go to the flop.
Already flopped the 1 set today, Rick. Can you do it twice on me?
Give me a 6-ball. There's a 6-ball. Slick Rick is running hot. And so is Brad. Set.
Yikes.
Up a sandwich, thank you.
You are up 2 sandwiches in 35 minutes right here. And fortunate for Brad here.
10-6-2, pretty good for Brad Owen. Nice, evil flop for him. Doug checks. And I think Brad should bet on the medium side in this situation. So the pot is $1,600. Brad goes $500. And I think you'd probably want to bet just a little bit bigger, given that we are playing effectively 200 big blinds deep. And if he wants to get all of his money in by the river, which you definitely want to do whenever you have the super nuts, you want to be betting a little bit bigger. That said, he bets 500 over round to Doug.
3 bets the sixes pre-flop. Completely binks it here on the 10-6 deuce Skittles flop.
Ugh.
And Doug with the overpair going nowhere.
If Brad had bet bigger on the flop, I think calling would definitely be the right play. But as he bets smaller and smaller, Doug should start considering a raise with some of his hands that are very likely good, but also very vulnerable. Like imagine Brad bet $100, right? You definitely want to raise with the jacks then. I'm not sure if $500 is so small to the point that you want to put in a check raise. So, maybe you could put in check raise, maybe not. I think calling is definitely the cautious play, especially if you think that Brad is on the more tight, aggressive side and inclined to not be too out of line against you. And I will say that most people don't get too out of line against people like Doug, who they know are generally loose and aggressive. So I think calling is probably going to be the prudent play for Doug in this scenario. Let's head to the turn.
Let's see another card. Calls the 500.
There's the 3-ball. Set for Brad. Let's listen in.
3 bets, 1,200.
Just under half pot for Brad.
The turn is a relatively blank card because we're not so concerned with Doug having the 5-4 in the scenario. So I think Brad should probably go bigger than the $1,200 that he bet. Again, he really, 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 really wants to get all the money in by the river. And in this scenario, Brad should have some bluffs in his range, mainly various overcards, especially overcards with a club. So I think this is a spot where we can reasonably start using a pretty polarized size, because hands like aces and kings, probably queens, are almost always good in this spot. So you want to bet big with those hands, both for value and protection, and that allows you to slot in a decent amount of bluffs into your range. So I think this is a scenario where the big size makes a whole lot of sense. I would go something like 2,600. I mean, I would be getting after it in this scenario. That may not necessarily be the GTO play, but in this spot, especially against someone who's perhaps a little bit battly, someone who's willing to get in there and fight hard, I definitely think you want to make them think you're fighting hard, especially when you have the nuts. So I think in this scenario, I would go a little bit bigger, maybe even an overbet. That said, perhaps these players don't have that dynamic. Maybe Brad has not been in there battling all that hard. If Brad is not known to battle all that hard, then you can't really get away with putting in a giant bet size here. But if you can, if you're in there playing a lot of pots, I definitely love betting big in this scenario, because the battly aggressive players are going to be somewhat inclined to find hero calls, and that's clearly good when you have a set. But he does go for the small bet. Let's take a look at what Doug does.
Don't really see any roads to a fold here from Doug, unless he's really giving Brad credit for queens plus, but for this price, he's going to look him up. 1,200 makes the call.
When Brad bets the flop and the turn, I definitely think Doug has just a pretty easy call at this point. You start to feel a little bit sick whenever someone who's probably not too out of line 3-bets you pre-flop, bets the flop, and bets the turn, but you have an overpair. What you going to do? You beat all the unpaired high cards. You maybe even beat some 10s like ace 10, king 10, 10-9 suited that decided to 3-bet, so you just got to call and go for the ride. Let's go to the river and try to not drown.
And now there's 5K in this pot as we take a river.
Brad, for those of you entering the contest, good news for you.
A quick 4,000. And see Doug's face, he's disgusted.
The river is the 8 of hearts, and Brad goes for a chunky $4,000 bet. 80% pot. I definitely like the big bet size here. However, if we went back to the flop bet size and the turn bet size, if Brad bet just a little bit bigger on the flop, a decent amount bigger on the turn, and here we are on the river, he would now be able to make a reasonably sized all-in, which I think would be quite strong, especially in this scenario, given Brad probably has some overcards that would love to bluff in this scenario, and as you can use a bigger and bigger bet size on the river, you get to have more and more bluffs in your range. To be fair, he could have 2x pot ripped it on the river. That'd be pretty savage. But he goes for the almost pot-sized bet. Still going for a lot of money. Over to Doug. It's a rough spot.
He's got a bad feeling in his stomach, but I think he's going to lean on making the call. But what is really Brad doing this with? Is he really going to barrel 3 streets on me with a busted big slick, ace, queen, etc.? Queens plus have you beat. 10s, 8s. Possible sets. So Doug losing to a lot, and if anybody can make a good fold, it's the 2 seed.
We've seen him do it.
He said he had a little bit of a headache before he came in today.
I might be joining you on the stuck train here.
Now he's thinking about boarding trains to Stuckville. Population 1 currently with McLovin in the 9 seat buried. 10K.
So look, Doug is clearly in agony on the river. What I want to know is, what do you do when you are faced with a difficult spot on the river where you just don't really know what to do? Do you flip a coin? Do you use some sort of random number generator? Or do you have your own unique way to decide if you should find a call or find a fold? Let me know what you do in the comment section down below.
Somebody send this man an Advil, Tylenol, maybe a Motrin.
You know what hand I have. It's your hand.
The jiggities. Makes the call. Shows the set. And Brad Owen. Big pot.
1,000 change here.
Kind of hurts when it's against the buddy, right?
Wow.
But there's no buddies.
There's no
at
buddies.
the poker table, and you're up a sandwich. Congratulations.
It looks like Doug errs towards what I do, and I don't know what to do on the river. I call. Doug called. I certainly don't fault him. You can't go around folding over pairs unless you know your opponent really does not get all that out of line at all. The tough thing about playing against video bloggers, though, especially if you're a known personality in the poker space, is that they want to try to get content against you. Sometimes. Not all the time. Sometimes they just have the nuts, but sometimes they do. Therefore, how bad can the call be? That's going to be it for today. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor. Click the like and subscribe buttons down below. I don't know for a fact, because of the analytics, that only about 16.3% of you will click the like button. But today, help me out. Get it up to 18%. That'd make me feel real good. Thank you. Good luck. Have fun. And whenever they go, 3-bet pre-flop, bet flop, bet turn, bet river, maybe the right play is just to fold.